Hey everyone, Marshall Couch here. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about object cloning. Object cloning is the tool in Automation Anywhere that allows us to select or interact with particular buttons or fields on an application or in or on a website. What we're going to do is we're just going to have a short little script that's going to do a Google search for us, and we will interact with that Google web page through object cloning, and hopefully that'll give you a better idea of how it works. To start out, we're going to go down to Web Recorder and open Browser just to get us to the Google page. So here I'm just going to open to www.google.com. Go ahead and save that. And let's save this and run it. We will need that page up so that we can actually interact with it anyway. So let's go ahead and make sure that piece of our code works. Cool. What we want to do is we want to select and set the text in this search box and then select this button. But what we don't want to do is just type something in here or type something into this window wherever the cursor may be and then maybe move our mouse to this spot. We actually want to select this button object here. And object cloning is going to allow us to select this text box and then this Google search button. Let's head back over to our Automation Anywhere workbench. Scroll up a little bit if you need to and find the object cloning command. I'm going to drag this in. Object cloning does have a few different ways of working. Object is where it's going to actually try to identify the object based on properties. It does know if it's a button or a text field most of the time, so that's the kind of thing that we'll be looking for here, and it will actually give us details about what it's done to identify this object and how it's identified the object. If that doesn't work, you can use coordinates, but keep in mind that this is going to be a lot like mouse movement, so it's not going to be particularly reliable. And image is kind of similar to coordinates, where it's actually going to look for a particular image. Your mileage may vary, especially as the screen, if it moves around, or the window moves around on your screen, or your resolution changes. Things like that can really impact coordinates and image. So we want to stick with object. So let's try this out. I'm going to click this drop down and choose Google-Internet Explorer, because that's this window right here. If I hover over it, I can see that it is Google Internet Explorer. So I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to click Capture and hold down my mouse button. And notice that it does tell you click and hold the mouse and drag the mouse where you want to capture. So I'm going to click and hold, and now I need to drag it over the fields that I want to capture. Do notice that it's not lining up exactly with what I want. As I move my mouse around, it's trying to highlight what I'm going to capture. It's not doing the best job lining it up. So if I hover right here, this is actually the search bar. It looks like everything is up to the left a little bit. So if I go down, right here is our Google search button, so it's not over top of the actual button. So keep that in mind. If you don't know what your buttons are, or you're having a hard time finding them, you may just have to do some trial and error. But this right here is my search bar, so I'm going to click over and I'm going to stay clicked and hover over it and release my mouse. Here we can now see the properties that has identified that object. There's the path, the DOMX path. Don't worry too much about what that really means. Just know that Automation Anywhere is doing some things to identify how to get to that button. And there's also some other tags here, particularly HTML, because we're using a web page. If we want to, we can turn off some of these settings, and we can actually expand and see all of the different settings it could potentially be looking for. So down here, we could actually just look for anything on the page that is a height 34 and width 527. That's what we're looking for. Don't worry about anything else. If we wanted to turn off everything else and just look at that. We're not going to do that. We're going to stick with what Automation Anywhere did, so I'm just going to cancel out of that. So we have the object of that input box selected. Now what we want to do is set the text. So I'm going to click over here into this select action to perform. And here is where we have a few different options. We can get some values from it potentially, like get text. We can set text or append text. And we can also do clicks and double clicks, things like that. We're going to do a set text, and let's just do a Google search for automation anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now we want to do another object cloning to get this Google search button to make sure that we select the right thing. So I'm going to drag in object cloning, choose that same window, click and hold capture, and again everything is kind of up to the left here, so I'm just going to click and drag over this because that should be my Google search button. And it's going to show us how it's identified it, and it does look like the HTML value of it is Google search, so we'll trust that that's the right thing, and we'll just do a click on that button to search. Let's save that. We'll save our entire task bot here. Let's close out of my Internet Explorer, and we'll give it a run. So it should open up Google, identify those objects, type in automation anywhere, and then click the search button based on the objects, not based on a particular location. So even as my Internet Explorer screen might move around on my desktop, I will still be able to identify those objects because I am using object cloning and I'm not using something like just regular mouse movements. Hope you find this useful. Thanks for watching.